Monbeg Genius could return this year actually off a £2 lower mark than what he started last season. Obviously, last season he came into it off the back of finishing third in the Ultima at the Cheltenham Festival behind subsequent Grand National winner Corach Rambler and subsequent Grade 1 winner Fast or Slow, having beaten the Goffer, who looked... I think he just didn't stay that day, but was very well handicapped. Oscar Elite, T-Clipper had all done well before coming into the race, and I think that was a really good Ultima. Now, last season he came back with a run at Ascot in the Sodexo Gold Cup, and you were pretty confident that they were planning that as a comeback run. With the Coral Gold Cup, or the Hennessy, or whatever it's called now, in mind. It's called the Coral Gold Cup. With that race in mind. But he ran really disappointingly. He made a really bad mistake, 5 out, dropped towards the rear of the field and was pulled up. And, you kind of forgave him that run and said, ignore it. He would have probably disappointed anyway, not having won the race. He probably had a lot of work left in him because the big target was the Hennessy or the Coral Gold Cup. He then went to that and ran an absolute blinder, finishing third, beaten by That's Alright Gino and Marla Mission, who I believe are still very well handicapped horses. That's Alright Gino, were very well handicapped horses. That's Alright Gino came into the race. We'd backed him the year before at the Cheltenham Festival, over 2.5. He went off the 5-1 favourite. He returned for the Coral Gold Cup. Yes, it was up in trip, and it was all about whether he stayed. If he did stay, then I was kind of suggesting that he was very well handicapped off his mark of 144. His mark of 145 when he got beat in the Magnus Plate. He only ran off 148 in the Coral Gold Cup. So if he was good enough for the trip, then I was pretty confident he was well handicapped. I didn't actually think he would stay, but he proved me wrong. Marla Mission, I think, is well handicapped still. He's a Grand National type. He did go for the Grand National last year, and I think he unseated at the chair. He'll be one to keep an eye out for this season. I hope they actually go back for that race. Off his slightly higher mark, he's now rated 155. So Monbeg Genius finished third, and I think was just beaten by 2 very well handicapped horses. But I now subsequently wonder whether that wasn't his best showing. His subsequent efforts, finishing 5th of 7 over 3 mile in a listed chase, the Premier listed chase at Kelso, and then finishing pulled up back at Cheltenham in the race one that he had previously finished third in. I just wonder whether he wasn't the horse at all last season, and that he needed, even though he finished third in the Hennessy or the Coral Gold Cup, that could well have been a huge effort from him. And better than what he almost should have been able to do. He had 3 disappointing runs and only 1 appeared to go right. But maybe that didn't go right, and maybe that was still a poor run from him. With that in mind, I'm going to give him a little chance, and I'm going to be really interested in him if he goes back for that race at Newbury for the Coral Gold Cup. Again, I would actually like to see him have a return run, go for something that you probably can't win. But if he runs well, rather than pulls up or finishes well beaten, maybe he's back on form this year, and that could be this season, and that could be the time to catch him for that Hennessy. Say he went to the Gold Cup, the Sodexo Live Gold Cup at Ascot, and he finished 3rd or 4th, didn't move in the handicap, and then went to Newbury for the Coral Gold Cup. Maybe we could say, even with that bit of work that he's likely to have been left in him, he's back on form. So he's one I definitely want to keep an eye out for. I'm forgiving him all of last season. I'm saying all of last season was disappointing efforts. And if that's the case, and that third in the Coral Gold Cup was a disappointing run, wait until he runs well again.